If you are not ready to hear somebody say they don't like your music, you shouldn't play your music for people. And I don't mean that as you shouldn't play your music for people. I mean that as it's part of the work to do as an artist of accepting that not everybody has your taste. Think about your favorite artist, whether living or past, and how much you adore them and how much their biggest fans adore them. And then picture what their haters had to say. Even you take the most popular artists in the history of the world. You take the Beatles, you take Michael Jackson, you take Beyonce. In all of these cases, there's going to be haters and there's going to be people that don't like it.
Hey, it's me, Matt, AiDIY, the AI music guy. Um, Today, I'm going to be trying a little bit of different tech. My microphone blew out, so I hope you accept and you don't think it's too weird that I've got this really cool office headset going on, and hopefully the sound's okay. We'll try to fix it out in post production if it doesn't work. I've got Ben Camp from Berklee School of Music, who also does some consulting over at Suno. He's I want to say he can tell you his exact title, but he does lyrics over at Berklee. He has a course on AI music writing within lyrics. I spoke at Berklee to one of his classes. It was a wonderful event. I was very excited about it, and he's agreed to come on, talk a little bit about himself, about what he does, and maybe break down some lyrics and talk about the way that you would approach lyrics for the people that are new to lyric writing, just from, I guess, an academic standpoint. He's a really cool guy. He's agreed to come on here. I'm really excited to have him. Thanks, Ben, for coming. I hope you can hear me, and I hope we can look at some of those lyrics with you.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I can hear you loud and clear. And I am happy to talk a little bit about what I do, but also like just very cool to be involved in a community that is pushing boundaries and creating art with new technologies. One of the things I do at Berkeley, I'll get a little bit more into the backstory in a second, but just to start off, the class that I had you visit was my AI songwriting class. Um, and I think it's pretty important for all sorts of creatives to be aware of what the bleeding edge of technology is and what it can do. Whether or not they're pro or anti, it's like you got to know what your competition and what the market is like. Sorry, you got to know what is available in the marketplace and what your competition has access to.
Yeah, I like that you called it an art form there. That's beautiful because even within the community, people struggle because people outside the community are constantly bashing. And some people are sensitive to that because I think a lot of people have been waiting to be artists or creative for a long time. And I think a lot of the times people that are creative and artists are very sensitive to things. And it sort of gets in people's heads. So really afraid to call themselves artists. So it's good to have someone like you calling it an art form, right? And I've seen it. Like I've seen, I can't, I don't see that it's not an art form or that it's not meaningful, at least meaningful. At the minimum, call it meaningful because of the things I've seen. I know people can spend up to 3 weeks to a month creating one song and one video because it's so important to them. And people will sit there and listen, will stay on watch parties on it for 3 to 5 hours listening to their music and other people's music that's completely AI. And I can't see that if it's not touching people in some way, listening to other people's stuff, not just there to hear your own stuff. I don't see how it couldn't be creative or art or meaningful if people are that into what they're doing and what other people are doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I don't. Well, okay, so just for context, let me set up where I come
Yeah,
from.
usually I get into that first.
Okay. So I have been involved in music in some way or another for probably almost 30 years now. Um, I got turntables when I was for my 16th birthday, and I started DJing. And arguably, this is an interesting take given what we're talking about because, like, DJing is to some people an art form, and to other people, you're just playing music that other people made back to back. And there's like some craft to it if you're doing mixing and you're like have to beat match two songs and then find two songs that are in the same key and then figure out where you want to transition so that as the bass comes out of this one, the bass comes in on this one. There's like some thoughtfulness to it, but you can also argue, yeah, but you didn't make any of that music. You're just playing other people's music, and it feels like somewhat irrelevant, the distinction. Like it, okay, maybe not, but I'm creating a sequence of sound that wasn't there before I got there.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I started with DJing, which feels like pretty related to the concept of like, let's say, a flexible definition of art or artwork or art forms. Um, then started producing, which was a little bit more me putting my own stamp and me being more involved in the decisions. Um, but even then, I'm still using samples that other people made. I didn't make the kick drum that's in my track. I didn't make the snare drum and the hi hat that's in my track. And I'm using synthesizers that other people programmed. I didn't write Serum. So even at the level of like, I'm in a DAW and I'm producing at a much more fine grained detail, there's still elements of like the same thing of when I was DJing of like piecing together sounds that other people created. I'm making a lot more decisions about where that goes. But I don't think that for me, it doesn't feel like there's a hard line of art and not art in those levels of choices. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah.
Fast forward, I start to run a couple record labels, and so then I get sort of involved in the business side of things, um, and eventually I go back to school to study songwriting. And now at this point, like arguably that's like a phase shift because now I'm using chords and notes and lyrics and rhythms that aren't just pulled from a sample pack that I downloaded, but also like if you take one bar of music from any song that I've written, you could certainly find another bar of music in some other song that uses that same rhythmic pattern or that same sequence of notes or that same chord progression. So I'm not like completely reinventing art from scratch, right? But again, there is this trend of like I'm making more decisions and I can like influence the outcome a little bit more. I have since studying, I've taught about I've taught songwriting to about 2,000 students from across the globe.
And
Uh,
that's at Berklee or just in several
that's
places?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
at Berklee and at Berklee Online.
Mm.
Um, I have amassed about 50 million streams, and I have a gold record with Bryce Fox's horns. And I it sort of came across Suno about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when it was still run in a Discord, and it was like I think the feeling that I had was that it was like the most transformative music technology that I encountered since like I first ran into Ableton.
Yeah. And that's at the base. That's before you could add like all your own personal stuff. That's at a very basic level.
Yeah. And that was also like me being a little bit optimistic of like, oh, well, if you can do this, then you should be able to get
Mm.
multi-tracks and you should be able to sing in a melody and then convert it to a bass line and you should be able to flip this and this and that. I mean, the all of the functionality wasn't there yet, but I certainly could see where it could go. And it's now there and they're adding new features all the time. And honestly, in a lot of cases, there are different decisions that I'm making, but in a lot of cases, I'm making more decisions than when I was pasting samples into a DAW and arranging them into a
Mm.
track. Also, for context, there's a very famous producer named Rick Rubin who is known and says this himself that he doesn't know how to play an instrument and he doesn't know how to touch any engineering gear. All that he does is like give his opinion to people and sort of coax the best performance out of them.
Yeah.
I have not heard anybody tell me that Rick Rubin is not an artist and Rick Rubin is not creating art. So, for everybody here who's listening who has had somebody tell them that's not real art or what you're doing isn't valid or whatever, like, just know that that's not, it's noise. And at pretty much every point in history, people have complained that whatever new technology is available to artists isn't real art.
Yeah.
And after a few
Mhm.
years, that dies down. And even like you can even take stuff that isn't about new technology, but like the art form of hip hop. There are people that say that's not art; it's totally art. There, when the was it the
I remember when hip hop came around, and it was very much a divide at that time. Like that's just talking to a beat. But I reckon at least half the tracks that I get now are hip hop, and even people outside of that genre go, "That's fantastic." It's completely changed.
yeah. So part of what you're battling might be like your own issue of what you feel is art or how much you're
Mm.
contributing or whatnot, and then part of it is just like you're hearing the loudest voices out of a crowd of people, some of whom are haters or dismissive or knee-jerk reactionaries. And if you pay attention to what two people out of 1,000 people say, or 20 people out of 1,000 people, like you're not getting a realistic, you're getting a distorted view
Mm.
of what you do. And it's also like, I think that as a creative, like part of your job is to not care what other people think or what other people want, but to trust your own compass. Like this is why people come to you for your art because it's your art, not because
Mm.
it's the art that 1,000 people wanted you to make.
Can I just jump on that one because I would like to really break down your thought because you've been around a lot of creatives, right? I guess in this space, that what I love is there's people new to creating and new to exposing themselves and their feelings and with their art form, and they really want people to hear what they have. And I think a lot of people just want to. I think people understand that they could be exposed and that could hurt, but I think people really want to be told your stuff's awesome. And I think a lot of us that curate this stuff are afraid to push back and say, look, maybe not. Maybe you got to go back a little bit in doing that. What advice can you give to people that I guess are new to it, that are being vulnerable for the first time in that space? Because it's a lot of them. It's a lot of them.
It's scary.
Mm.
If you are not ready to hear somebody say they don't like your music, you shouldn't play your music for people. And I don't mean that as you shouldn't play your music for people. I mean that as it's part of the work to do as an artist of accepting that not everybody has your taste.
Mm.
And if you, there's a thought exercise for all of you.
I love thought exercises.
Think about your favorite artist, whether living or past, and how much you adore them and how much their biggest fans adore them. And then picture what their haters had to say. Even you take the most popular artists in the history of the world. You take the Beatles, you take Michael Jackson, you take Beyonce. In all of these cases, there's going to be haters and there's going to be
Mm.
people that don't like it. And if Taylor Swift was unable to take criticism of her art, and it just so happened that the first three people she played her songs for all said, "Hey, that sucks," and then she stopped making music, is that the world that you'd want to live in?
Yeah. It's funny we use Taylor Swift as an example because probably half the people that hate Taylor Swift haven't heard a Taylor Swift song, right? So,
Could be.
yeah, there are just haters and negative people. That's fantastic. I love that. But yeah, go on, because this is what people need to hear from someone like you who has been around it for so long and very professional and seeing people come through and seeing people that's successful. That's a really good perspective to have.
It's also worth remembering that, like, if you're gonna make good art, it's gonna piss some people off.
Mm.
If you're gonna make art that doesn't piss anybody off, it probably belongs hanging on the wall of a substandard hotel.
Of your mother's house who loves you.
Uh, what I mean
My
is not
mom
to say
says my
that,
music's good.
sorry, what I mean is not to say that like only that you're making art only a mother could love. What I mean to say is that like the stuff that is meant to be inoffensive and watered down is
Mm,
inoffensive and watered down.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. And then you can put it in the children's books and stuff. If that's what I suppose if that's what you do, like you can make the songs for the Wiggles and they can sing them, I suppose, and that's it,
Yeah.
right? Unless you're offended by cold spaghetti, which there probably somebody is, you know.
Sure, and there are people. I mean, I don't know the Wiggles particularly, but like point taken. And there are also people who would find that music offensive.
Yeah, there definitely are. You can find those people for sure. That's awesome. Well, look, one of the things that I thought was kind of cool when I was at your class, I thought so many things. I was only there for like an hour, and it started getting controversial in a way, and we sort of went to the music part. But I'm glad we sort of went to the music where you're breaking down the lyrics and stuff like that. But prior to that, I enjoyed seeing the perspective from people who have been in music basically their whole lives. And one in particular had a lot of questions for me. And I loved getting that from her, um, but extremely open to it. Like you talk like what my big takeaway from there was people that had, I guess, potentially everything to lose because their whole lives have been, not AI music, open to the idea of using AI as part of their thing, still a little bit, worried about it, but also, like I said, open-minded. Like they saw that it's here, they want to see what it does, either for the good or the bad. There were some issues about whether about crediting people or whether it's right or wrong and all that stuff. But I thought it was very interesting that like we were talking about the haters online, who they are and all that, but people who are extremely invested monetarily and with time and with their future in music, but still open to the idea that AI could be part of it.
Sorry, was there a question or are you just
No,
commenting on?
I thought conversational, like like so.
Oh, yeah,
I thought it was so. You're around these people all the time, right? So that I
yeah.
had a small sample of it.
I think let me just provide a little bit of context for your listeners
Yeah,
as to like what maybe it feels like to be on the end of being a musician
I
who
love
has
that.
spent your whole
Yes.
life practicing your craft, learning how to write, learning how to perform, etc., and then be faced with a technology that can do everything that you spent 15 years
Mm,
perfecting
yeah.
or yeah. Um, one fear is that part of your value, and I mean could be economic value, like your ability to earn income, or
Mm,
could be your self-worth value, like you perceive yourself as a valuable being because you can sing a certain way and everybody loves the way you sing. And whether it's the economic worth or the self-worth, if you're faced in a situation where anybody on the planet can press a button and get a performance that sounds near or as good or even better than you, that can be a really terrifying prospect to face. Now, I'm not saying that as a result of that, you should shut everything down because, like, let's say you were the best horseshoer. I don't know if that's the name for the people that make horseshoes and fit them to horses,
Or the
but
people that play horseshoes, one of the
or the
two.
people that play horseshoes. But
Yeah.
let's say that was your job, and you were the best in town, and
Mm,
everybody knew if they wanted to shoe their horse, they came to you. And then all of a sudden, we get automobiles, and people have less of a need to have their horses shoed.
mm,
Okay, that's kind of scary. The thing that you've spent the whole, your whole life bettering your craft at, now people don't need all of the sudden because they have a better way to get around and they don't need to rely on you or your horses or their horses. Um, it just can be a little bit scary to think that like what you value yourself for, what other people value you for, is now available on tap. I think another like angle to this is just that like it has been the case that throughout music's history there have been ways that some creators, some crafters monetize their work. So some people put food on the table by writing really, really great songs, or by going and doing tours, or by crafting the music that you hear in the background of a film that's really, creates the really suspenseful moments or the big epic dramatic reveal. These are all jobs, or these are all things for which you've needed humans to do the job of creating the work, whether it's bespoke, meaning you give me your film and I score it, or
Mm.
whether you have your film and you go to a music library and pick out music that I made. Um, and to be clear, this was also an issue when, like, I'm sure film composers were upset at the advent of music libraries, meaning you
Yeah,
used to have to come to me to get your music, and now you can just go to like, flip through a catalog and look for suspenseful 064 and plug that in at your suspenseful scene. Well, now I'm getting less commissions.
yeah.
So anytime that like your livelihood is threatened, that's another uh, very scary thing to face. And I think that maybe one of the things that these artists are saying and are holding on to is the idea that they want to make sure that what humans directly do is still valued, and that a flood of AI music or AI assisted music doesn't mean that I won't want to go listen to, the whoever's playing the open mic in my city.
Yeah. I always kind of joke about that. Like, what are we going to do with it? Like, what's the fear as far as like taking over live music? Like, I know there are actually some legitimate fears now, but is someone going to be like, waiting for me to go up on stage and start prompting, like, "Yo,
Well, but
Dallas,"
you have
like,
to put that in perspective of like before uh, like EDM production sets. Like somebody's gonna look at Skrillex and be like, "What? You're gonna just go up and press play on your laptop?"
mm.
Yes.
People
I mean,
still like to see people
there's
live.
some
People,
knob turning involved, but it's not anywhere near the type of experience that seeing five well-rehearsed band members all locking into a groove and playing
mm,
together is.
yeah.
I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying they're fundamentally different.
Yeah, and people are going to be attracted. Like I know, I kind of dropped the K-pop thing on you when we were over at Suno, but people that are into like a K-pop group that maybe the songs are in form of really that they're sort of performing. Like there's going to be the people that are more drawn to that, and there's going to be people that want to go to see Led Zeppelin, where you know John Paul Jones is playing a little bit differently because he wants to get a little bit of something different out of John Bonham or something like that out of his drums. So like, and it's going to feel a little bit different every time, and people are going to experience that sort of thing a little bit different. So there might be people that, in my opinion, that are drawn to you know a group that's performed, but they're just performing someone's AI music, or they might never like to go to live music, but they're, I mean, there's billions of people in the world, and there's going to be different things that people like. Um, you know, it is my take on that.
No, I mean I agree. I think that the perspective you've got broadly two classes of listeners: passive listeners and active listeners. And the active listeners are the ones you're talking about, who are going to want to go see exactly their favorite band, go shred it up and like talk about it for, with their friends and post about it on the internet and get very excited. The passive listeners are just going to put on Pandora world music station or whatever sort of like song radio and just let it roll and have it in the background and it's fine. It's not too distracting. It could be hanging on the wall of a a subpar hotel. Um, and I think that the 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 whole of the revenue stream from the music industry is comprised of the combination of both of those listeners.
Mm,
And I don't think that active listeners I don't think bands are likely to lose active listeners to somebody prompting.
yeah.
I, in fact, also think that some people who get really good at generating AI music, and when I say prompting, I'm sort of being a little cheeky about it, right? Because to really be good at AI music, or to be really good at generating any sort of art form, you want to know the ins and outs of all of the tools of your craft,
Mm,
whether
yes,
that's like
it's
brush
true.
strokes on a canvas,
Yeah,
or whether that's assembling different pieces of Gen AI music, or as we'll get into later, like editing your working on your lyric craft and editing your lyrics. Um, so I think that even the active listeners are going to gravitate towards some people, regardless of the tools that they use, if they show passion and creativity and art and excitement. The passive listeners, I'm pretty sure that anywhere that you can monetize a passive listener's attention for cheaper than is currently being done, somebody's going to swoop in and do it. That's the whole
it's
principle
true,
behind
and
art.
it's been progressively that way since the start. Since the wheel.
Yeah, yeah. This is not new. This is just a different scale at which it's being done.
Yeah. So we'll take it back a little bit because it actually goes to active and passive as well. Like you mentioned about like people feeling threatened by it, and justifiably so, because they're worried it's been their identity, and someone's coming in and possibly, in short, taking their identity. And I always come back and forth on this because I started off being extremely sensitive to that. But then, being in the bubble that I'm in, I'm only seeing the sniping stuff that's happening. Like, screw you guys, you should be out of here. You're screwing up music and that. And then I'll have a conversation with someone like you, or I'll go to Berklee and I'll be around musicians. I go, okay, yes, it's true. Like, we should be sensitive to that. I should sort of. I'm my takeaway from the last 5 minutes of the conversation is, first of all, there's enough room for everybody because there's active and passive listeners, and the people we're sort of targeting the passive listeners. um, but also, like, I think if both sides of it, and there shouldn't be sides, eventually it should just be sort of
Well,
music.
I want to just clarify something because I was not suggesting that your listeners and the music that they create is created for passive listeners.
Okay, all right.
Like, I'm assuming that they're trying to connect with active fans to really be like, here's my experience, here's what I'm passionate about. Are you also passionate about it? Which is
Yeah.
getting back to the original point, like, not everybody's going to be passionate about everything that I write, every lyric that I write, every beat that I make, whatever. But that, like, the scale is less important when it's to personal satisfaction. There's a song, so in the same year, I released a song that got, I don't know, maybe like 500,000 plays, 500,000 streams. And I was like, oh man, this could have been so much better. Like, and not just number of streams. Like, I wish like the producer had done something different with it, and like the vocal performance had been different, and it was just like very unsatisfying, even though it reached 500,000 streams. That same year, I released a song that I think now has like 7,000 streams, but I heard from like four different people that song meant so much to me, and it got me through such a hard time.
Mm,
That song, even though it has a fraction of the number of streams, fraction of the success, that song means so much more to me. And the impact that that song had on four people means so much more to me than any stats from any streaming on the other one.
yeah. I suppose and that's good too. That we'll take that point as well. Um, Even in this community, like, I have one song that doesn't have a whole lot of views, but it's my favorite song. I love the meaning behind it. I love the idea behind it. It makes me feel good. And a lot of people talk about whether they just write songs for themselves. There's almost like a divide in the community whether all your songs should be for yourself, and what makes you happy and what makes a few people happy, or whether people should be pushing stuff out for commercial success. And I think you can have both, but you clearly have something.
I think that if your goal is I want to capture as many passive listeners as possible, you're probably not going to be making art
Mm,
that's that great.
yeah.
If you instead are like, I'm writing a song for exactly this person or exactly this segment of people that share this thing in common,
Mm,
it's probably going to be it's going to be pointier,
mm,
less
yeah.
watered down, less diffuse. And I'd also say, like, there's probably a point in being like, when you're writing a song, not just thinking about who it's for, but also thinking about who it's not for. Who's going to get pissed off at this song? Yeah, let me like really lean into this because part of there's a lot of things that we get out of music and a lot of reasons that people engage with music. One of them is for a sense of culture and connection. And part of culture and connection is like identity and identity politics and like who you fit in with. And part of that is
Mm,
defining who you don't fit in with, right? Like when when the Sex Pistols and the Ramones were making punk in the 70s, they were specifically trying to piss off a large portion of society because
mm,
they were not talking to that portion. They were talking to the kids that were young and sick of all of like of traditional society and who wanted anarchy and who wanted to like uproot the system. And had they instead said, "Oh, we want to make the music that appeals to the most people," like you would not have gotten anything good out of the Sex Pistols or the Ramones or any of those classic punk bands.
yeah.
And I think similarly with the dubstep movement, or similarly with like
Disco. I saw a thing on disco, how disco started too. That was beautiful. I saw a
yeah,
documentary about that. It was fantastic, and
the,
and how that was the first time. Go. Yeah.
yes, just on the topic of disco. So disco is currently now pretty widely accepted,
Mm.
but in I think it was the 70s, I think it was the end of the 70s,
The
there was something called disco
yes.
there was something called Disco Demolition Night,
Mm.
which is at Kaminsky Park in Chicago. The is a baseball stadium. The DJ of like the local radio station invited everybody to bring disco records and give them like they made a big pile of disco records on the center of the field. And during some sort of intermission in the game, the DJ came out and exploded dynamite blowing these records up, actually ruining the field and causing the Sox to have to forfeit the next day's game. But the point is that people were so against this style of music that they decided to collectively in a stadium of tens of thousands of people blow it up as a spectacle.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anything more hurtful. Like when I think about a comment from somebody on Reddit saying that's not real music, that feels so much like tamer than somebody taking a record that I made, put my blood, sweat, and tears into, and seeing them blow it up on national television in front of thousands of people.
Yeah.
So the hate is not like specific to like people hate all the time.
Yeah. Well, we'll give context to it because I saw a whole documentary on that on the flight actually over to see you. Like I was on my way to Boston, and I watched the documentary about that. That's a really good way to bring in, right? So when disco started, especially people in the gay community at the time felt in those areas felt they didn't have a place to belong. They sort of had to hide and not sort of be out in the open. And the music form actually brought that community together in the pubs and also brought people from outside, and people were feeling accepted according to the documentary. I'm not that person or whatever, but according to the documentary, the people that were there at the time. And when you got to that and people started embracing it, and the scene started expanding to more mainstream, and it was like a massive love fest because people we're all understanding together, getting to people. Maybe that guy's not so bad. Maybe that guy's not so bad. And when that happened at Kaminsky Park, it was like people were talking about that was like a dagger to their heart because that music brought everybody together. And all of a sudden, it was like, we hate you now. And it wasn't just it didn't, to them, it didn't feel like it was the music. It felt like the acceptance that they had gotten from a lot of people had been ripped out of their hearts. That was powerful to me because it was the music and it was the people part of it too.
That's that's very well put.
Mm. So watch that documentary if you can see what music does for people and how it can tear people apart. It was
And
a
I think
beautiful
maybe
documentary.
also think about like for you as a creator, who do you wish you could connect with? What sort of support do you wish you had? What sort of community? Um, what are the people that you would want to make us? If you could make a song that would give just a small group of people a safe place to listen, what would
Mm.
that song be, and who would that group of people be?
Yeah, you get me a bit. Actually, you're getting me a bit emotional right now because there are people in my community right now that write. And we were talking about being comfortable releasing things. And well, I gave you one example that when I was speaking with Billy Hits, which I gave you this same example of that artist to possibly break down. And there's quite a few that will write being extremely vulnerable for themselves, but also like uh, they're being very brave in how it exposes themselves and being vulnerable that way to a lot of people. But also the hope is that people that are feeling the same way can sort of gravitate towards that music, and it sort of be a release for them or a way to identify the other people in the same sort of place. And they go through their entire life journey writing about that sort of thing, right? And I want to talk about. I'll just quickly mention, like you're saying, don't write for everybody. Write for a specific type of person to target that, and possibly piss off a whole bunch of other people. There's a thing that hasn't been explained really well in the different Facebook groups or the different communities about, like, people say, I want to write music for everybody to enjoy, and people don't understand how that doesn't work. Like, it's too watered down. It doesn't resonate with anybody because you're trying to resent it. You can't resonate with everybody, right? Um, so, like it with marketing, they say, you should target, or you should look at an exact person who you should market to. Yes, there's going to be millions of people that don't like your marketing, but like you're not going to get a billion customers. You only need a few hundred, I guess, in the case of a business or whatever. So who cares if millions of other people don't? You're going to be really close. You're going to understand who that customer is. And in music, it's the same thing. You're going to understand who likes your music, and that's going to drive the other music you get because you're going to interact with those people. Do you agree?
Yes, I often tell my students when it sounds like they're making music that feels like it's just meant to be for anybody to listen to and nowhere in particular, but vaguely successful. I often tell them that it sounds like they're trying to make McDonald's and that I would much rather them make a Michelin star restaurant.
Yeah. Or that poke bowl
And
across the street. I keep thinking about that.
and this is important.
Yeah.
There, to me, obviously McDonald's is, I think, the most successful chain as far as like number of meals served, right? The most successful restaurant on the planet. So like why wouldn't you want to be McDonald's? Well, I don't know of anybody who describes McDonald's food as anything near art.
Mm.
It certainly is like financially successful, but that's not because of how good their burger is. That's because of how good their marketing is and how good their business plans are. And when you are like if you want to make music that appeals to everybody, like probably what that actually means in practice is that you want to do marketing that appeals to everybody and you just need a product that's like unoffensive enough to fit your marketing plan. But I think, at least from what you're describing and from what I'm hearing of the songs that you sent over, um, you guys are not trying to make slop that can fit in anywhere. Like you're trying to create art that's interesting and beautiful and exciting.
Mm. People are proud of the stuff that they put through. The ones that submit, they're super proud. And actually, if you in the case of Aiden Yagu, was extremely difficult for him to pick one of the songs, so I just picked one for him.
Yeah, I don't think that the line cook at a McDonald's is proud of the burger that they're serving.
I was thinking that too. There's not some guy at the top at McDonald's that's going, God, I feel so satisfied of everything I'm putting out. Man, I hope someone loves my cheeseburger.
Well, but to be clear, I think that they probably would feel pretty satisfied about how they're executing the business plan.
Yes, yes, and that way, I guess, is art form as well. But
Yes,
that's not. But the food isn't their art form. I
correct. The
think
food
for
is just a
marketing,
product
it's,
that happens to fit it.
yeah.
And I think like this is also true of musicians of like really popular music. Like there, I'm sure all of you and all of your listeners could think of some bands that are like really amazing, really killing, but don't have anywhere the anywhere near the amount of success that you would expect them to have,
Hmm.
right? And if they put more time into their marketing and their development and their promotion, they would. And honestly, they could probably even tone down their music and still see more success just based on putting more effort into that. If your goal is to be successful, and whatever that means, like getting streams or getting tours or earning income or placements or whatever, if your goal is to be successful, like you should be spending uh, probably more time on promotion and business than on the creative aspect.
Yeah, and it's probably going to have to expand. It probably has to be more than just you, right? It has to be someone that's good at that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, bigger teams help bigger things happen.
Yeah, you can't be. I guess you can't be an expert in everything, but I guess everybody that starts, you have to try. I suppose. Like not everybody has, unlimited funds to hire a marketing agency. You got to try what you can try, and you should kind of know the business. If you're if you're in it for the business, you should probably know the business aspect of it as well before you start going down the line of hiring people too. Because otherwise, you're just going to have to learn a whole bunch of hard lessons as time goes on, which you're probably going to have to learn anyway. Just speaking from someone who's had a few businesses, not so much in music, but there's hard lessons that you end up learning, especially if you hand over stuff too soon.
Yeah.
Cool, dude. I love having you on, man. Can we just talk for like 5 hours or two? I like to just I'm like, oh, good. I'm just gonna let him go. I'm just gonna let him go because he's really thoughtful in the way that if I interrupt this chain of thought, I'm gonna totally screw stuff up. Um, but what I might do, like, we'll try to go through a few of these songs. Um, I don't know if you want more variety and stuff. I know I sort of sent like two hip hop songs, and one of my sort of cheeky, and the reason being like we use AI in different ways, right? Like the one I did of mine, I
Well,
know how go. Yeah,
yeah, let me ask. This is a little weird that I don't know what exactly you want to do with these songs, but it's a little weird for me to not to do anything without the author here to get sort of a
yeah,
back and forth.
yeah. Okay.
But what sort of what would be useful in
Uh,
having me look at these songs?
so I sort of spoke to those artists and like yeah, I spoke to them themselves, and they thought it would be an honor to have someone like at Berklee sort of like because they're all self-taught, right? The two of them that I did plus mine's sort of more heavily reliant on AI because it's one of my sort of earlier songs that I did. But the other one are just very interested to know how a song like theirs would be broken down academically, right? Like that's pretty much it, just to see the process of what you would look at and how you'd sort of form it up. But I see what you're saying. I get what you say. Like you would probably want to know the context of how they wrote the song and the reading, and I could
Well,
kind
there's
of
like
see that. Yeah,
decisions in there that I would like ask, like, why did you make this decision?
yeah,
And depending on their answer, I would give different feedback. Like if yeah.
yeah.
So it's a little tricky to do any sort of like in-depth analysis, but
Let's just go through a couple of them just to see what you could say academically, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does, like maybe they can get something out of it. I just think it'd be cool to hear for you to hear their songs and think like I know in the case of Aiden Yagu, he
sure.
mostly doesn't use the AI to write the music, and I think Dylan's the same way, but they use it to enhance it or to do to check cadence or back and forth from
All
AI.
right, so which one would you like to start with?
Start with Aiden Yagu because he's the first one that I got through, and
All right,
and Dilly Hits is the one that I used as an example when I spoke at Berklee.
do you want to screen share and play it, or how do you
Uh,
want to do it?
so what I'll do is I'll just edit it so people will get to hear it say now,
Okay.
and then you can sort of break down the lyrics um, on screen if you want. Yeah, so I think you could share screen.
All right, I'm gonna play it.
Yep,
And
yep.
Yeah, news clips, Hollywood shows, headlines told.
We go to an ad or
That ain't the
something.
truth, that's just what's sold. Now I'm standing where the cameras don't go. And man, I ain't never felt cold like this before. stepped in a zone where the lights don't glow, where the nights move slow, but the fights still grow. I've been watching through a screen, never seen it this close. Now the air too thick, feel the weight on my throat. They say work hard, push past, stay driven, but the start line's bent and the race stay rigged in. Back home, it's a vote, here it's court dates given. One slip, whole life in a case. No witness, shut down, cops flood blocks. I seen dreams laid out in white chalk spots. I see moms work shifts while the rent still climb, while execs play chess with $1 in a lot. I see the world, but it ain't the same show. What I call a struggle, they call the status quo. I hear their voices, I try to know, but I can't wear the weight of the scars they show.
Oh, I didn't know how the world looked from below. Now I see, but I still can't hold what it means to survive in a life this cold. Oh, this cold.
Yeah, they flip pain to a check, make cash off views. Broadcast blues, but don't ask who lose. Tell them pull up boots, but they lace too loose. When the weight too great, how they supposed to move? I seen kids with no space just to play like kids, cause the block ain't safe, so they stay like this. I've been blind to the walls that they face like this. Never feared that a badge might erase my prints. Talk rags to the riches, but the rags stay ripped, and the riches get stacked by the ones who sit. I've been taught if you fail, get up, don't trip, but if failure's all you know, when the hell's that switch? I see the world, but it ain't the same show. What I call a struggle, they call the status quo. I hear their voices, I try to know, but I can't wear the weight of the scars they show.
Oh, I didn't know how the world looked from below. Now I see, but I still can't hold what it means to survive in a life this cold. Oh, this cold.
I seen the chain link gates, the long court dates, the hand-me-down fate, the locked in place. I seen the red lines drawn, the silence taught, and I see I got the privilege to leave when I want. Yeah, I ain't trying to preach, just trying to learn, cause back home we talk, but we don't know the burn. I see it now, and man, it cut deep, but seeing ain't living, so what does that mean?
But I still can't hold what it means to survive in a life this cold. Oh, this cold. This cold. This cold.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Where do you want to start, or like what? I mean,
So
I guess.
yeah, just overall, like the way the lyrics form, anything like that. I guess I'm more relying on you to I guess I like that you said it's very cool. Is it that's got to be cool because like I said, he writes the lyrics.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Wait, so
he
he wrote all of these lyrics without an LLM?
that's right. Yeah. So I guess, he uses ChatGPT possibly or any of those more to go after it, make sure the cadence is right, word count and all that stuff. So he still uses AI, but the bulk of it is him writing.
Okay. So I mean, usually what I'll start if I'm doing feedback on a song, I will start with the central message of the song. Because you could write a third verse and a fourth verse and a fifth verse and whatever, but we keep coming back to this. We have this sort of like pre-chorusy sort of thing, and then this chorus sort of thing. So lyrics, I see the world, but it ain't the same show. What I call a struggle, they call the status quo. I hear their voices and I try to know, but I can't wear the weight of the scars they show. So if I'm reading this properly, and this is where it would help to have them here, I think this seems like it's about like I'm trying to commiserate with people who are suffering and sort of understand their suffering. I can't possibly understand what it is actually like to be them, because for me, I see a struggle, but they just say, "Oh, yeah, but that's just how life is." which is kind of a like painful way to put it, you know? Very, very like, and painful, good from a writing craft to be able to
Articulate it that way.
articulate it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like when people are masking, you can clearly see that someone's sad, but they're kind of saying, "No, no, I'm fine," right? Where maybe wearing the weight of the world on their shoulders, but quietly.
Yes. We go into this next section. I didn't know how the world looked from below. Now I see, but I still can't hold what it means to survive in a life this cold. All right. Also cool. I don't know necessarily about these two sections being put next to each other. And I think there's two things that are making me say this. Like one or the other, I think would be fine for me. The first thing that's making me say this is that this roughly says the same thing as this. It just says it in a little bit more general of phrasing. Honestly, I think that like this is kind of a cooler moment. The what I call a struggle line is kind of a cooler moment than is put here. But this also like feels like it captures it well. And so, I I think I tend generally to say if you're gonna like repeat something, repeat it. Don't give me like a slightly modified version of it. So I had a professor who told me something that has stuck with me ever since. He said like the key to making interesting music is do something again, and then do something different. Um, and this to me feels like do something and do something again. And this feels like not quite doing something different enough to warrant this shift. Now, arguably, you could say, well, I kind of earn it because I'm putting a different singer there. So now it's not just the rapper has this perspective, but also the singer has this perspective. And I could see that, except that this brings me to my second point is that I don't really have much context for who the singer is, what their relationship is to the person who's rapping, like why they're chiming in at this particular moment. If you think about a song like Love the Way You Lie by Rihanna and Eminem, there's a very clear relationship between the singer and the rapper, right? The rapper is in the position of an abuser, and Eminem is saying, you know, I forget exactly what the words is, but something like I feel so furious with you, like this, like I I I can't stand this, right? Whereas the singer is saying in response to the rapper is saying, I love the way you lie. Like I'm in this toxic relationship. I'm taking it as it is.
Very clear about the two different personalities in the song
Yeah, when
or
Rihanna sings, I
perspectives.
know why she's singing. I know what her place in the story is.
Mm,
Here, you have a singer come in, and I'm not quite sure what their place in the story is, other than that they're just sort of a Greek chorus supporting the thing that the rapper is saying here.
okay.
Um, so I don't know, like I might I might approach the chorus section differently, but there's no one correct way to do this. And also, to be clear, these are champagne problems, right? Because you have a good section here and you have a good section here, and I'm just saying maybe don't have both of them right next to each other.
Yeah.
But this is certainly not a like the song now doesn't work because of this. The song still works completely fine. Um, then I think the other thing that I think about here is so that was a very big picture. We're just talking about the chorus, the main message, the thing that gets repeated. So I'll do one big thing and one small thing. The small thing is that the rhymes told, sold, go. I'm gonna assume that it's wrapped before something like that. So these are meant to rhyme. Glow, grow, close, throat. All right. If I rhymes are a spotlight. Every time a rhyme happens, it's like a moment that it brings me in. And I'm sure I certainly, probably you have, probably all of your listeners have had the experience of like singing along with a song at a party and like everybody jumps in for the chorus, and then it goes to the second verse, and then people are kind of fumbling today, and like they know what the rhyme word is, but they don't remember
Uh,
the rest of it, right? That's
yeah.
because this stuff is a little bit fuzzier. It doesn't have that like the weight of a rhyme here. And if I take this out, if I take the fuzzy stuff out, and I'm just left with the rhymes, I should be able to tell you something about the song, about the topic, about the message, maybe about the tone. And I look at these rhymes and it's told, sold, go, before, glow, grow, which these two have a bit of a like positive energy, glowing and
Hmm.
growing, close and throat. And I really don't know much about what's going on in the song. But if I let me give you another example. If I take this list of words, midnight, dark, moonlight, heart, scream, freeze, eyes, paralyzed. I didn't give you any of the rest of the words. You have any idea what the song is about, what the mood is, who's talking, like what's going on, what the story
Yeah.
is?
I mean, it's pretty dark and scary. Um, it's could be fearful. Um, I mean, I want to lean on. I'd want to lean on something like a heartbreak or something like that, possibly someone that's coming to terms.
Okay, so definitely fearful, definitely scary. These are the rhymes from the first verse of Thriller,
Yeah,
which is a
yeah.
horror song. And it like you can feel that in the imprint that the rhymes leave.
Someone's gonna
So
see that as it came out. They're going, "Man, it's freaking obviously Thriller. What are you even talking about?" But yeah,
of course, yeah, some people will know. But like I guess this is just like the way that I think about this. I had a marketing guy explain to me. I had done like some work for him, and he said that he really appreciated all of the music that I put in for this spot for an ad, because he said all of the musical choices were related to the brand. Like the direction that the melody went was related to the brand. The instruments that I used was related to the brand. The lyrics was related to the brand. There was even a background instrumental part. The brand was this sort of like uh, early 20th century um, thing, and I did a Morse code as part of the music. And the Morse code, I could have just put in any Morse code, but what I did was spell out the name of the brand in Morse code. So all of these choices like were aligned with what the brand was. And the guy said, "Yeah, this passes the Snickers test." And I was like, "What's the Snickers test?" He said, "Well, you take a Snickers, you slice in at any point on the Snickers, you're gonna get the ingredients of a Snickers. You're gonna get chocolate, you're gonna get caramel, you're gonna get the nuts, whatever it is." And that should be present everywhere. And so when I think about, the theme of the song Thriller is like fearful, terror, etc., the, it passes the Snickers test, because if you chop off just the slice of just looking at the rhymes, you see that in there. If you chop off, the lyrics and you just get the instrumental, like these very dramatic shifts between this like this door creaking and these footsteps and like these like loud blasts of horns going back to this sort of like smaller groove. Everything feels like fearful and like is conveying the story.
but let
So
me ask you a question about that, about this part too,
yeah,
because you made me thinking as you're talking about that, right? Like you can use the same exact thing and totally, if you're telling a story with a song, you can change the mood of the song in the exact same way, couldn't you? Like, if you want to start out fearful and scary, but all of a sudden, it's daytime, and all of a sudden the sun comes up, and you want to basically convey relief that the zombies aren't out anymore. You could do that way, or you could change the music itself and the way the lyrics lay out. But you'd
yes,
have to
and
be specific with that.
yeah, I think also important to lean in here is that like the artistic choice is not necessarily the literal one.
Hmm.
So sometimes you may want to play with that in a non-intuitive way. And there's I love this song. It's by Rina Sawayama. It's called STFU. It stands for what you think it stands for.
Okay.
And the verse is so dissonant. It's got two different keys going on. I think the riff is in Phrygian and the vocal melody is in Mixolydian, but it's really, really dissonant, very, very dark. And she's talking about all the ways that like this person in her life like mistreats her and doesn't respect her and talks down to her, etc. And then the chorus shifts to it's literally just her saying "STFU." You know what? Shut up.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
it switches from this dark, dissonant, distorted guitar, grah. It switches to this like strummed acoustic guitar, major, happy, everything's shiny and pretty, while
yeah,
she says, "Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up."
yeah,
And that's a story that like you can't read those lyrics and get that story. You have to have the music telling that story.
yeah. Which I guess gets to the point of like a lot of people getting into this place are releasing poems, which put another layer on because it's all of a sudden, you got the music to it as well, and how you think to set the music to your poem is important in this case. Awesome, dude. That was that first song, that broke down. I just saw so much learnings from that, honestly, and now like this is the thing with me, right? Like I started with really heavy ChatGPT. I had no idea song. Um, then I'm like, okay, I understand how strong song structure works at a basic. So I started writing a little bit more, but then I just started feeding it into ChatGPT. This is what I've done. This is what I like. Now just write the whole song with me. But now I'm starting to think maybe I should sort of come back from that, and I should have more, I guess, intent on exactly how the lyrics are laid out instead of just giving the meaning. Because I guess with ChatGPT or whatever large language model you use, um, you're really just getting a story being told, and I think in this way, there's a particular way that can be more impactful in the way that you tell that story, other than just having ChatGPT whatever tell the story in a way that you're like, oh, that is how I wanted to tell the story, right? So that's a lesson for me.
Oh yeah. So we at the beginning of the conversation, let's bring it full circle. We talked about the amount of decisions you're making,
Mm,
and whether or not you use an LLM. When I work with my students, I will often make a comment of this sounds like an unintentional decision. This sounds like you made this decision by habit. Did you really think through that you specifically wanted to use that chord in that moment? Did you really think through that you wanted to use these rhymes at that moment? Or was it just sort of like an unconscious process? It was like the first or second thing that came to mind. And very often it's the first or second thing that came to mind, if I'm bringing this up in a comment. Um, and the way that I've best heard this put is um, whenever you don't infuse your intention into a decision, you're leaving art on the table. And so every decision that you leave up to an AI is probably going to be fine. I mean, some cases it will be bad, some cases it'll be great, but for the most part, it'll be fine. But like, it won't as much be your decision as it'll be something that was good enough to fit.
yeah.
And when you get the polishing tools out, and one of my favorite writers for this is Stephen Sondheim. He's an American musical theater writer. He's passed away, but um, he was so into his craft and so into like. There's a really great song from the musical Sweeney Todd called "My Friends." I would encourage you all just to go to YouTube and watch Sondheim teaches My Friends, and you'll see how he's crafted the lyric. There's a moment where he describes in the lyric that he uses a lot of S's in these particular lines in this verse. It's a lot of because the character in that moment is having a very intimate relationship and conversation with their knives. And he uses the S's because he wanted to force the singer to have a whispered quality to their speech. And S's are whispered sounds. And it's not until the end of the verse or the next section that he opens up into these bigger vowels. So he's not just thinking about what am I trying to say here. He's thinking about exactly what sounds and syllables do I want to use while I'm saying this, what supports the mood that I'm trying to create. It goes so much deeper than what's my message and what am I trying to say. And I think that a lot of LLMs won't necessarily work at that level of nuance yet, or maybe if you instruct them, they might. But there's all sorts of decisions that if you don't make them are going to be left up to default and might not convey your intention as strongly as they could.
Yeah, that's a really cool point to make, and kind of getting lost in your words there. Like, you can actually use ChatGPT or whatever, and you can make what's a good song and that you like the song, but it's hard to get who you are, your intention, or what you're feeling inside just by prompting ChatGPT to say, "I'll get all my happy feelings and all that stuff. I really want to do that and make people feel this way." I guess to get the song out and the way that you yourself want to make people feel that way, you need to spend a bit more time with it and think a bit more through it. That's an interesting. I don't want to put words in your mouth. That's what I'm taking. That's my takeaway from what you said. I think that's what you're saying. Yeah.
Every decision you make can communicate who you are and what you want to say.
Yeah.
Every decision you don't make or leave up to habit could communicate like either nothing, which is not that bad, or worse, it could communicate something that you don't want to say.
Yeah. And it's what your intent of you putting the music out for anyway.
Yeah.
We can go into that like.
And I just want to be clear for Aiden. Um, I am not saying, oh, what this song is, oh, the song could be so much better. It's not doing anything. Look at these rhymes, right? Like I started with the big thing, just looking at the chorus, but then I zoomed in at the really, really small detail. Not to say this song is not good, but just to say, are these the decisions that you meant to make? Is this the intention that you meant to communicate? Or are there other decisions that you could make at this level that would support your message even more? And I don't encourage anybody like stressing over this for days and days and days, or like just like the song's out. It's great. The video is very cool. Just keep that in mind for the next song you write, and maybe think about like, all right, let me try and craft a verse where I'm intentionally. An exercise that I recommend is go look up, figure out what your song's about. So in this case, the struggle or the contrast between life from above and life from below, and then go look for rhymes or go look for words that feel like, absent the rest of the song, just looking at this list of 5 words, I would totally get what the song was about. So look for those words and then look for rhymes for those words that also tell you that. And now you've got sort of a palette, like a painter will mix their paints beforehand and then go and then paint with them. This is like a rhyme palette. It gives you like a list of words to choose from.
Beautiful. And also it's a teaching moment for people beyond Aiden. But Aiden was really open for that as well. So he's definitely not going to sort of take it in any sort of overly critical way. That's awesome. Do you have time to do one or two more?
I have to dip, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. We can deep fake you and I'll break it down.
Oh, please don't. Nobody deep fake me. I do not consent to being deep faked.
Nice. Well, I'm glad we got through that way. It was a good lesson anyway. But yeah, and you heard the other ones. You heard the one from Dilly Hits, and that was a really personal one from him as well.
I think one of the things that makes reviewing AI music difficult is that like if you have like any sense of taste, you're already going to be doing stuff that's like in the like top 70% of what I'm going to hear. And like I've already like stated that like the default generation out of Suno is better than some of my lyric writing 1 students.
Mm.
So and not to like slam on them, like I think that it's a testament to how good the tech has gotten, and it now becomes a floor. It's like, oh well, let me just start here with the AI thing and see how that compares to the thing that I wrote. And if mine is wanting, that just shows me some steps that I can take. And if mine's better, great. And how can I even step it up further than that?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And there was an example in Japan that was basically proves that point too. That's awesome, dude. I won't keep you any longer. Just quickly talk like 2 minutes. Just the course that you're literally running in at Berklee about AI music writing, just to give context, because people are extremely interested when I told them you were going to be on, and that is, and what it is, and why it's about, and whether people can join it or not.
So there's two classes. One is on Berkeley's Boston campus, and it's called Bots and Beats, and it covers AI. We talk about how to use an LLM to write lyrics, or revise or get feedback on lyrics. We talk about how to use Gen AI tools to create music, how to use RVC to tweak voices, um, kind of a whole gamut of the tools that are available. And we also talk about the impact that these technologies will have. And we also talk about Web3 technologies, blockchain, XR, VR, AR, metaverse stuff, and what that's going to do to the music industry and what it's going to mean for songwriters and creators and performers. The other course is very similar, sort of a reduced version of this. It's a 4-week course on Berklee Online it's just called AI for Songwriters. The one on Boston's campus you can't take unless you are an enrolled student in Berklee College of Music and you're in Boston. The one on Berklee Online, I think anybody can sign up for. You could just go to online.berkeley.edu and look for the AI for Songwriters course. I don't think there's any prerequisites. I think you can just take this course directly. So if you do, I would love to see you. Next semester is going to be, I guess, the winter semester, probably starting in January.
Cool. That's awesome. I didn't know you could actually just. I was I thought just that Bots and Beats was online. I didn't realize you had the on campus. I didn't realize you had the online one too. So yeah, if you're interested in that, have a look. Like you can see how in detail you can get about breaking down lyrics, and that's just in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, just to be clear, if you're interested in learning lyric craft and song craft, we don't cover too much of that in the AI course because we have to spend so much time talking about the tools. But we do have Berklee Online has several classes on writing lyrics, popular lyric writing, writing better lyrics, and a couple poetry courses as well. And there's also Jimmy Kachulis' writing hit songs. There's a couple of really great offerings on melody, lyric, and harmony. So I would just encourage you to look through the catalog and pick a course that seems interesting to you. And the fun part is that once you learn a skill about how to write a melody, you can very easily transfer that to the domain of Suno or any AI tools where you now can sing the melody that you wrote, but then get a really professional sounding production of it in 12 seconds flat.
Yeah, I'd love to see the crossover where people starting to do that, and then all of a sudden, people properly writing songs in this context are understanding how stuff flows, and then all of a sudden the AI and the manual, everything collides, and it's just good for the future. But
the charity I support is the John Fawcett Foundation. If you'd like to support them, go to the John Fawcett website. They do cataract surgery in remote villages in Indonesia to some of the poorest areas of the world. I've been on a trip out to see them 2 years ago. It completely changed my life. I will be organizing a trip hopefully sometime next year in April, and where you guys can come along and see the life-changing work that it does and the life-saving work. If you're interested in that, reach out to me, but definitely donate to them. Definitely don't donate to them if you find that it's a worthwhile charity like I do. But let's go ahead and continue on with this content.
Dude, thanks a lot for coming on. I hope I have really been looking forward to this chat. Yeah. I really enjoyed catching up with you in Boston. That whole trip at Suno and in Berklee was extremely impactful and meaningful for me to get to meet you and get to meet some of the people over there. I hope to get to do it again. But thanks for coming on. I know your time is really valuable, and we're gone 15 minutes over what I promised. So I know you have to get to do stuff, but yeah, check out Berklee Online, check out Ben's profiles. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll catch you for the next episode. Thank you.